Greetings, everyone. I'm Nola Joy Carrillo, president of Nola Joy Carrillo Productions. And I'm so honored today to have with me Kevin John, ABC10's multi-skilled journalist and host who specializes in sports. Welcome, Kevin.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you for that warm introduction right there. And I am blessed to be here talking with you about matters that are near and dear to my heart.
And before we get started, I want to personally congratulate you because you have been nominated by Sacramento Magazine for the best sportscaster and best news person for 2023.
Well, that's very kind of you to say that. Thank you for the acknowledgement. But honestly, there are a lot better sportscasters in the Sacramento region than me. So, just to be nominated and amongst so many great sportscasters out here is just a humbling experience, but I don't deserve the honor. I'm just blessed to be here.
Well, thank you. Well, I think you deserve the honor. And if you haven't voted, they could go to your Facebook and find a link to vote.
Yes, correct. On my cover photo, actually on my Facebook page, there's a picture of me and a couple of other people from my station who were nominated. And there's a link underneath that to vote for me, but don't feel compelled to vote for me. You don't have to. I'm just blessed to be there.
Well, congratulations again to you and to the other nominees at ABC 10. Okay, Kevin, please share your message about how important mental health is and your personal story, how depression and anxiety took you down a very scary and dark road.
Well, first of all, I think that it's nice to see a lot more mental health awareness in the year 2023. Keep in mind, this was something 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, if you talked about, was more of a taboo subject, especially when seeking treatment for mental health. You were often seen as an outcast or ostracized, or you weren't really seen as a normal, sane, functioning human being who can contribute to society. So I want to start off by saying it's nice to see the progress, the steps that have been made to bring awareness and acknowledge mental health, and more importantly, seeing steps out there on how to combat it and how to heal your mental health. You asked about my journey personally. Well, Nola Joy, this was something that I initially tried to not embrace. When I realized that I was having some mental health struggles, it started about 10 years ago, I'd say in around 2014. I was living in Los Angeles, pursuing the entertainment industry, and just really down on my luck, down on life, didn't really feel valuable. And, that's part of it. When you move to Los Angeles and pursue the entertainment industry, you receive more rejections than you do acceptance. So of course, you may not feel valuable. Your self-esteem is going to be beat down. You'll feel demoralized at times. So probably something I didn't really think about prior to, but 2014 is when I had my first real encounter with mental health struggles, or shall I say depression. And it was then that I realized, okay, this is not some episode I should ignore or something I should put aside. I was legit struggling in a serious funk, depressed, and I realized that, okay, this is real. But the problem was back then in 2014, Nola Joy, I felt ashamed about it. So I didn't even seek help on mental health. It wasn't until 5 years later in 2019 when I actually sought help for the first time, because I was ashamed. And part of the reason why is because, when it comes to especially men, in my circles with other men, it wasn't something that was talked about a lot. As a man, you're taught to be tough and resilient and strong, and, you never want to show weakness at all. So I was ashamed to kind of bring it up around my friends and peers, just because I knew that it probably would not be received well. Fortunately, I was involved with some great church homes who were able to provide counsel and, celebrate recovery and things of that sort. But it really wasn't until 2019, that was around 4 or 5 years ago, when I went through my depths of depression. I went to a doctor, I was diagnosed with severe depression. And for the first time in my life, I was legit suicidal. And it is, to someone who has never experienced suicidal thoughts or just that depth of depression, it's something I would not wish on my worst enemy. Waking up every morning and just wondering if life is worth living, having this what felt like an insurmountable amount of weight on my back when I'm trying to get out of bed each day. It's just like, okay, let me get out, but it just feels like you have these imaginary weights on top of you. And for anyone who's experienced depression, you know that you feel less than worthy. You know you don't feel valuable. You feel like you're a nuisance to society. You feel that you create more problems for people than joy. So you have all these negative thoughts that you infiltrate your head with, and it really does a number on you. So not to get way off subject, but it was at that time when I did seek help for the first time in my life, and I went to go see a therapist in 2019. I was very private about it. Nobody knew about it. I kept it to myself. And then it's just been a slow process since then. I will be transparent and say I do take medication right now. The good news, I went to see my doctor last week, and she said that I may be able to come off of it in the near future. But I do want to say that I hate saying the word that I beat depression, because I don't feel that I quote unquote beat depression, because depression is something that constantly shows its ugly head. I haven't beat depression. I've just learned how to deal with depression. And I continue to deal with it because I continue to have negative episodes as well. So yeah, I'm sorry. That was a really long answer right there. So.
Oh, but it was a very valid and important answer. Do you feel that then, because you were rejected, like in Los Angeles, that led to this severe depression?
I think it was a combination of a number of things. For one, obviously, when you're pursuing a career that has been a joy and lifelong dream of yours, and you can't get anywhere doing it, of course, that's a demoralizing feeling. Mm-hmm. But also at that time, I had a relationship that went bad, and it was, I essentially had a significant other telling me that they didn't feel I was going to amount to anything. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't, I was just kind of a lost cause. So obviously when you hear those kind of things, it definitely weighs on you. So the fact that I was suffering in life professionally, I was suffering personally, I was suffering mentally, there was just not like I always say, you have to have something in life to look forward to, whether it's purpose, whether it's passion, something you're passionate about, whether it's a hobby. There's certain things in life that wake you up every morning and you're excited to do. Maybe it's your family. At that point in time and in the depths of my depression, Nola Joy, there was not one thing I can think of in this world that warranted me waking up every morning and excited to live. There was nothing. And I tried, but there was just nothing at all to combat these negative thoughts that I had. And that's why I feel it's very important to seek purpose and seek meaning. And another thing that this whole experience taught me too, Nola Joy, is that you can't have your career define you. You can't have your relationship define you. I think a lot of times in life, we look to all these outside sources to validate our worth, whether it's our significant other, whether if it's our family, whether if it's our job, whether if it's the amount of awards or nominations that we accrue throughout life. We look to all these outside sources for validation. And when none of those are there, empty, we feel like we don't have worth. So this experience has kind of taught me to not look at all of those outside things in order to validate my worth or value in this world, and know that true value comes from within, and knowing that you have worth.
Well, you certainly do have worth. Let's share that phone number if people want to seek help with mental health.
Absolutely. So there's actually a new hotline. It's a 3-digit number, and it came out recently. It's 988, and you can dial that directly, and it will take you to a mental health specialist and provide you with care, with resources, whatever it is that you're going through at that particular point in time. It is a 24-hour, 7 days a week hotline that is there to provide care or resources, whatever it is that you need. So I think it's wonderful.
Kevin, I believe you hail from Stockton, California.
That is correct.
So how did you find your true calling?
Through a lot of rejection. That's one of the ways that you could say it. Funny enough, growing up, I initially wanted to be a professional athlete, like most kids, young kids growing up. And then by the time I got to high school and realized I did not have the athletic skills or the athletic body to make it on the professional level, not to mention I didn't receive one college scholarship athletically, I was like, okay, maybe it's time to reevaluate and consider my life plan. So funny enough, when I went off to college, I was one of those people, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had taken one theater class in high school and I really enjoyed that. It was awesome, but you get off to college and, 18, if you ask me, I think 18 is very young to have to make a decision on what you want to do the rest of your life. So needless to say, I switched my major around probably 20 times until finally my advisor was like, Kevin, you have to select a major if you want to graduate in 4 years. Because I was on scholarship. I was on full ride scholarship, academic. So I had to finish in 4 years. Otherwise, if I was on the 5-year plan or 6-year plan, I would have had to pay out of pocket. And I went to a small private school, Morehouse College, which is very expensive. So needless to say, I ended up getting my undergraduate degree in theater or drama in English. Because I enjoyed performing, anything oratorically, I always excelled. I was in speech and debate in college. So at that, shortly after that, that's when I moved to LA. I lived in LA for about 12 years, pursuing entertainment while supplementing my income as a substitute teacher, a track coach, and a DJ. That's the thing in LA, you got to have 600 jobs to survive. So I guess to answer your question, Noah Joy, the point that I realized of journalism and pursuing this field, I think it was around the time after my 11th year out there. I'm in my early 30s in LA, living in a studio apartment, eating top ramen and saying, okay, maybe this whole entertainment thing is not going to work out for me. Maybe I need to think of something else I can do that I do well at. So at the time I started working, or so I say volunteering because I wasn't getting paid, at this online network. It was called AfterBuzz TV. So I started off doing entertainment hosting for them. Then they opened up a sports division. I started hosting their sports programming. And then once I started doing that, that is what sprouted my love of storytelling and journalism. So I ended up taking some classes on hosting. I ended up learning journalism, learning how to write, produce, edit. So I put together a reel, sent it out to around 200 stations across the nation. I was rejected by all 200 plus stations except for 3. Little Rock, Arkansas, Victoria, Texas, and Kearney, Nebraska. So I ended up, my first job was in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was hired as a sports anchor, and I've been in the business the last 8 years. I love it, and I'm blessed to do this.
You also worked in Texas too, didn't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I started off in Little Rock, Arkansas. Then I went to Tyler, Texas, worked for CBS 19. I was there for a couple of years. And then I got the job in Sacramento about 4 years ago.
Well, you've acted in films, you've done commercials, and you also served as host for several TV programs. You're kind of like a jack of all trades, but very successful.
Well, you're very kind of you to say that. I would say I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Who is your role model?
Wow, that is a very good question. Growing up, I can't really necessarily say I had a role model or there was somebody. I mean, of course, I was inspired by professional athletes, Warren Moon, Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan. So obviously I was inspired by athletes like most kids. I had those posters all over my wall growing up. When I got to college, my role model at the time was actually Will Smith, because I loved his ability to, like you say, he was just talented. He was able to do everything. So that was someone who I idolized. But I would have to say, honestly, my role models in retrospect were my teachers, my college professors, because those are the ones who instilled confidence in me. Professor Joanne McCarty at Spelman, Professor Carol Mitchell-Leon at Clark Atlanta University. Those were the individuals who made me believe in myself and who instilled confidence in me. So I would have to say my role models were my academic professors. So
what would you say your greatest strengths are?
Talking. I would say for what is this? Now, that could be a weakness depending on what's coming out of my mouth. But I would say I'm pretty fearless. I am not afraid, and maybe that's the whole blessing of being in LA for all those years and being rejected in between booking gigs is you learn to grow thick skin. And obviously in the business that I work in broadcasting, it could be a business, where people are critical of the work that you do. So I would say probably my biggest strength is just being fearless and, being able to persevere through challenges.
So who is your favorite celebrity that you've interviewed so far?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I got to think about this one. Wow. I would probably say, Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. And the reason I say Steph Curry is, besides having this godlike talent and, the guy revolutionized the game of basketball. He's just a very humble, down-to-earth family man. And I respect him just as much off the court as I do on the court. And I do appreciate the time that he gave me to do a one-on-one with him. So Stephen Curry is probably the one who stands out the most.
What advice would you give aspiring TV journalists today?
First of all, do not be afraid of rejection. When you enter this career, there's a lot of jobs out there that you may apply to. You will likely not hear back from every job. So just know that every no equals a yes. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by the late, great Dr. Maya Angelou. And it goes, "In life, you will suffer defeats, but you must not be defeated." And essentially what that means is, yes, you're going to face failure. You're going to face rejection, but don't let that define you. So that's the first bit of advice I would give. Second bit of advice I would give is to know who you are as a journalist. And as people say, trust in your awesomeness. There are people out there who may try to put you in a box or may try to categorize you or may try to say your strengths or weaknesses. You yourself know what you can bring to the table. So make sure that you are confident in your awesomeness and don't ever let someone tell you what you're capable of doing or what you're not. So know who you are and then another thing I want to say is be willing for change. The journalism business has evolved so much just in the last 5 to 10 years with social media, streaming, all kinds of stuff. Be open to evolution, be open to adapting. The people in this business who do not make it are those who are afraid of change and those who do not want to adapt with what's new and what's going on. Be willing to adapt, be willing to change. Like the late, great John Wooden said, it's what you learn after you know it all that matters and counts. And I think that's true. Even though you may think you know it all, there's always new things. This industry is always adapting and changing. Be open to change. And the last thing I can say to that, always be kind. Be kind to everyone who you work with, everyone who reaches out to you. Always be kind and establish great relationships. Kindness goes a far way. I always say kindness is the most important intangible on your resume, even though it's not physically on there. It's the most important thing. So always be kind, treat people with kindness, and have a gracious heart.
I certainly congratulate you on that. I always like to believe, to be honest, to be truthful, and to be kind. So
absolutely.
I'm sorry, Kevin, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Nola Joy, that I think if I knew the answer to that or even had an idea on what the answer to that is, I would share. I will say this. I recently finished up grad school. I graduate next month, so It's not technical yet, but I've completed all my work. And one of my aspirations down the line, I want to get back into academia. I worked as a substitute teacher when I was in LA, in between getting acting gigs and entertainment gigs. And I've always kind of had a dream to return to the classroom because I think there's nothing more rewarding than helping other people out. what good is it for you to gain knowledge if you're not willing to pass it down? So I've always wanted to go back into the classroom. So one of my long-term goals is to be a college professor for journalism. So maybe in 5 years or so, I can maybe start off as an adjunct professor and then just kind of go from where. But down the line, in 5 years from now, I would like to do that. And hopefully, if I'm still in this business and fortunate enough to be in this broadcasting business, I'll still be able to do this job and make great memories and establish great relationships.
And perhaps you'll even author a book.
From your mouth to God's ears. Nola Joy, I don't know if I have the patience to sit there and write a full 200-page, 300-page book, but you know what? Now that you planted that seed in me, we'll see if it manifests.
So before we leave, what is your personal quote that you live by every day?
You said my personal goal or quote?
No, quote, or saying.
Okay. My personal quote that I live by is by the great evangelicus pastor, Rick Warren. And it goes, greatness is not determined by how many people serve you, but by how many people you serve. And I think this day and age, when it's all about having followers and stuff and you want to feel great, I think ultimately what you do for others, how you impact the lives of others and how you sow into others is more important. And that's more rewarding than any award or anything that you can do. So that's a quote that I try to live by.
It's a wonderful quote. I have some comments coming in from
Sure.
the viewers. Okay, I keep losing it. Hold on a second. Okay.
No worries.
Okay.
No worries.
We have Sel Gentile and Karen Brody are watching with you, and Sel Gentile, who's a tinnitus advocate in Florida. It says, I understand why you are ashamed. The same thing is with hearing loss. How thrilling and helpful your comments are coming forward, which is helping others who are listening. What a blessing to hear you speak out loudly about such a severe disorder. And Merla Doria is watching too.
Well, thank you. That was a very, very kind message right there. And my heart goes out to, her being hearing impaired. Not to make it about myself, but I actually was diagnosed with moderate hearing loss and I wore tubes in my ear all throughout elementary school. So I still struggle with my hearing to this day, but I just want to tell her I appreciate that kind message. I understand that I've been through a lot in life and I'm ashamed of my, a lot of what happened to me, but as one of my colleagues told me, sometimes we have to make our mess our message. So whatever it is that you're going through, my mess obviously was my mental health struggles, and I tried to make that my message. So thank you to them for writing in, and I appreciate the kind words.
Now, I know that you and I want to send our healing prayers to LeBron James' eldest son, Bronny. Would you share more about what happened?
Yeah, so this was yesterday during practice at USC. LeBron James' eldest son, Bronny James, who's obviously an All-American, he suffered cardiac arrest while at practice, which is scary. That's for those that don't know, it's when your heart stops. So they had to, fortunately, there was a medical staff nearby that were able to resuscitate him and to get him back. The latest that I've seen today is that Bronny is recovering and he is okay. But it's always scary when you see this in sports. Of course, we all remember what happened to Damar Hamlin during that Monday Night Football game with the Buffalo Bills when he suffered cardiac arrest. They literally had to resuscitate him on the field. So it's scary. And then Hank Gathers, another outstanding basketball player from 30 years ago, LMU, who unfortunately collapsed on court and died with a cardiac issue. So it's always scary when you see this in sports. But Bronny James, who's only 18 years old, your heart really goes out to him, to his family. So, I definitely send my deepest condolences and thoughts and prayers to his family as Bronny makes his recovery. And, I hope he's healthy. And also I hope that he's able to continue playing basketball. Sometimes if doctors detect a heart issue, you may have to cease sports or participating in sports. And I know basketball is Bronny's dream. So, hopefully this is just a minor incident and he'll be able to recover from this. But my prayers are definitely with, the James family this morning.
So before we leave, what message would you like to share with our viewers today?
Message I would just like to share with the viewers is that nothing is ever final. Like you may have heard about suicide, it is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I say that because when you're going through the depths of what seems like hell, it seems like you may be there forever. Believe me, I did not know hell had a basement until I went through my depression. So I know it seems like it's going to last forever, but it will not. Nothing in life is forever. And it's never be ashamed to seek treatment, to seek anything. Never be scared, never be ashamed. There are plenty of people in this world who sympathize with you and go through the same things that you're going through right now. So never feel that you are alone, and give back. Always, pay it forward. That's one of the things I always say, pay it forward. Whatever it is in life that you do, pay it forward to the next generation.
Kevin John, I'd like to recommend that in the future, you consider producing and directing and starring in a movie about your personal story with mental health.
Wow. Well, I definitely received that. That's a lot of work, but Nola Joy, you have to be part of the process too. Maybe you can be a co-producer or something like that, since you inspired it.
That would be my honor. That would be fun and very informative and helpful to everybody. So before we leave, I just want to say thank you, Kevin John, and create heaven in your heart and starlight in your soul.
Amen to that. I love that. Create heaven in your heart and star in your soul. And I thank you again for having me on here. It was an extreme blessing to be on your show here and just to share my